hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. The claws in my heart, I can't let go, I'm breaking apart, controlling me, controlling And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's edition of the Paranormal Portal, Bedtime Stories From Beyond. It's been a slow start, but I hope you guys are all getting in here. I don't know, I'm hearing that notifications aren't going out, and that is always a concern, but I don't know why that happens for YouTube. I don't know what's going on, if it's a bug in the system or what the deal is, but I'm sorry to hear that. If you're having troubles getting notifications, check to see if that bell is still rung for you. I know that people had problems in the past with it getting unrung or whatever. So definitely recheck that. But thank you to all of you who are coming in and being a part of the show. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here. It just wouldn't be the same to be talking to myself. So I'm glad you're here to keep me company. And welcome. And I hope you're all ready because it's time for bed. So happy Tuesday, everybody. This is the Bedtime Stories From Beyond, and I am Brent Thomas, your host. And I hope you had a great Tuesday and your week is off to a wonderful start. I think it's 2019 is shaping up to be kind of a challenging year for everybody, and it just sounds like the energies are really all over the place. And I'm not sure what's going on. I assume it has something to do with this whole raising of consciousness that I really believe we're all in. I think we're in this state of transition, or the state of flux, or the state of change, or whatever it is. If we're moving towards a higher vibrational frequency, or some people talk about things like 5D, and I don't pretend to know much about that, but I can tell you that I've been feeling for a long time that we are in an important time. So I hope you all are doing okay, and I hope 2019 is being gentle with you all the same. But I think if we are going through hard times, just hang in there. I really think it's going to be worth it for all of us. And I think we're just on the cusp of a new awareness and a new understanding, or I don't know. But I guess you have to believe that, right? Because whenever you're going through times of trials, you have to have that belief that something good is coming. So hang in there, everybody. I'm sure we'll get there. If you're going through a rough 2019, but it's just started, and I think it'll get into the groove. Hopefully, God, hopefully. I mean, it's not been a real amazing year for me either, but it's been good. I mean, it's not been bad, and I'm certainly not complaining. But to start off the year with troubles and challenges is always a tough thing. But hope you guys are holding it all together out there and fighting the good fight. So tonight we're going to get into some more of these bedtime stories to get you all set for your sweet dreams and all of that. So I guess we can just get started. But thank you all for coming in, and I see more and more of you are coming in, so that's awesome. Makes me feel happy. So good to see you guys. I mean, we got the greatest listeners ever. I mean, you guys are just wonderful, and literally, you guys are family. So thanks for being a part of this every day that we're on. I am kind of tossing around the idea of maybe not doing bedtime stories every night. I just don't want it to be too much, or I certainly don't want you guys to get worn out of the portal. That's never been the intent, but maybe it's better to just do it a few nights of the week. But I'm just throwing the idea around. But if you have an opinion on that, please let me know. You can certainly message me on, or leave a message on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio, or you can email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. So definitely let me know what you guys are thinking. But I don't want it to ever be too much. And I know so many of you guys are so loyal, and no matter what's going on, you guys always just end up here with me, which is wonderful. But if you think that a few nights a week would be good, just let me know. I'm open to suggestions. So let's get started here. The first story is coming out of the great state of Minnesota, which is actually my home state. That's where I was born and raised, was in the state of Minnesota, and lived most of my life actually. So, but I'm now up in the north of Idaho, up in the just could throw a rock and hit Canada from here pretty much. So I'm right up on the tip, but it's beautiful country up here. But I do always have my heart in Minnesota. So let's see what's going on in Minnesota. My sister recently stayed in our house, and she said that she was awoken from an afternoon nap by a little girl who was about, 6 or 7 years old, wearing clothing that looked like it came out of the 1920s or 1930s. And the girl asked her very clearly, "Have you seen my mama?" And my sister replied, "No." And the girl promptly disappeared. This is far from the first such occurrence for my sister, who has been visited by numerous spirits in the past, including our great-grandfather shortly after his funeral. However, she said it was unsettling because it was a child. She also said that she encountered spirits on the 3rd floor of our home as well, which I thought was really interesting because of 2 other occurrences. The first one is my youngest daughter, 15 months, becomes incredibly scared when I bring her with me up to the 3rd floor to get things from a bedroom, practically climbing over my shoulder to get away from the room. And the second occurrence is I'm working on the 2nd floor and clearly hearing footsteps and a rolling sound on the ceiling above me, even though I had removed all of the floorboards in that section of the attic level 2 years earlier. I've also seen what I thought is another preschool daughter of mine walking in the hallways of a 2nd floor in the evening on 3 or 4 occasions. The experience was so real and vivid that I called out my daughter's name and went to get her and take her back to bed, only to not see her in the room I thought she walked into, and then subsequently finding her sound asleep in her own room, which is on the other side of the house. I've not yet been able to locate information on any of the young girls who might have died during the home's 95-year-old history, but I would like to get to the bottom of this. So, in the case of the sounds and the footsteps and such, she said she removed the floorboards, or he. I don't know if it's a he or she, but they said that they removed the floorboards, so it basically sounds like just floor joists up there. And if you're still hearing footsteps and such like that, it makes me think perhaps, and I don't pretend to know, but it makes me think that perhaps it may be residual. And what she's hearing is some activity that had gone on at some point in the distant past. That's just replaying randomly or maybe not so randomly, but it doesn't necessarily mean an active intelligent haunt, and including the apparitions that they're seeing, other than the little girl saying, "Have you seen my mama?" So that would be an intelligent haunt where the inquiry is directed at a person that the apparition apparently is seeing and is questioning. So that would be intelligent, but the other ones could very well be just residual. But those old houses have a lot of old ghosts and a lot of old energy, and it's kind of amazing sometimes how those things can play out, seemingly all on their own. And of course, houses, some houses have their own personality altogether, which is a whole other can of worms. But yeah, I don't know. It's a very interesting story and encounters, but yeah, there's nothing definitive in any of that, but very cool nonetheless. The next one is also, let's see, this one's from Tennessee. So let's see what's going on in Tennessee. We're going all over the map tonight, ladies and gentlemen. When I was 7, my father's older brother, Gary, came to live with us after he went through a divorce. And he was planning to stay with us for a while, so my parents began fixing up a bedroom in our unfinished basement. And the first night he was there, he was going to sleep with my 3-year-old brother, as he had a full-size bed in his room, and my little brother couldn't stand for someone to sleep with him, so he would have none of it. And that evening threw such a fuss that Gary ended up sleeping the remainder of his stay on the sofa bed in the living room. Not even a couple of months after moving in, Gary died of a massive heart attack in his sleep at the age of 34. Wow, that's horrible. And while on a business trip in another state. The entire time he lived with us, my mother had a reoccurring dream that my father had died, and in her dream she could clearly see my father in the casket and my uncle and his ex-wife standing in front of it. My mom had not seen my aunt in a while, and in the dream she had long hair, whereas last she'd seen her hair was actually short. At the funeral, my mom realized what she had been dreaming. My uncle had been dead a while before he was found and was swollen, and he looked more like my heavy-set father in the casket. And there was my dad and Gary's ex-wife, who now had long hair, standing in front of the casket. After the funeral, my parents came to pick me up and my brother and sister, as we didn't go, and when we got home, the entire house smelled of carnations for several hours. About the time the smell went away, we were all getting ready for bed. Excuse me. My brother had been in bed not even half an hour when he started angrily yelling. We all went to his room, and he looked at my mother and said, "Get Gary out of my bed." He was sitting up, pointing next to him, adamant that Gary was indeed there, and she needed to make him get out. My mother tried to convince my brother that Gary wasn't there, but he was starting to convince her that he was. He said, yes, he is, and I want him out of my bed now. This went on for a couple of minutes, and then my brother laid back down, satisfied Gary was no longer there. A few days after this incident, my mom was riding to work with the next-door neighbor telling the story, and as she told the story, she started to smell carnations. The neighbor said she smelled it too, and that the smell was very strong. My mother told me about her dreams when I was about 9, and also told me about some other strange things she had noticed before he died. I was pretty freaked out the night my brother threw a tantrum, demanding we make my just-buried uncle get out of his bed. My brother doesn't remember it, but the rest of the family will never forget it. Oh, that's pretty powerful. And I guess that's maybe Gary's way of saying, hey, I'm all right. Huh, that's really powerful. And that's, there again, ladies and gentlemen, the children, they just cued in on it. I'm not sure what to think about the situation where the kid is seeing the deceased uncle in his bed and the mom saying, no, there's nobody there. Again, that kind of gets back to, do you tell them that to try to placate them and calm them down, or is there a better approach? Maybe you talk to them and say, well, let's talk to him together and encourage the uncle to leave the room. Because clearly the boy was seeing the uncle there. And again, I think that when parents, try to soothe their children, they're actually encouraging their children to shut their eyes and shut off that sight. And I guess I don't need to go into it any more than that. You guys all know what I'm talking about, but it is a tough one because in that instance, it's already late at night. It's already been a big day, but I don't know. That would be a little tougher, but I still think there's that, even asking the child what he sees and then talking to the uncle with the child and asking him to please get out of the bed would have been a better approach. But that's just me. All right, the next one. Now, this one comes out of California, but this one's pretty long. So you're getting the full meal deal tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I've always been a curious creature, and I joined the Ordo Rosicrucis, AMORC, aka the Rosicrucians, to better understand secret societies. When I was going to college, I did a book report on cults like the Hare Krishna peoples and Temple, Church of Scientology, and even the Church of Satan by actually visiting these cults and talking with the members of these cults. Of course, I got an A in sociology for actually doing my own personal investigations of these cults. The funny thing is that the Church of Scientology and the Church of Satan actually asked me to leave because I was counteracting everything they were saying, and it angered them. As a ghost writer and paranormal investigator for HPI, which is Haunted Paranormal Investigations, I want to better understand ghosts, spirits, and poltergeist activities, demons, residual hauntings, and how can I do this? Easy, by learning firsthand through a professional outfit like HPI. Let's see. This one it is very long. I also sit and wonder on the existence of ghosts. Do they actually have jobs? Do they know of the existence of God? I came up with my own theories on life after death, and here's my theory. When a person dies, they are confronted by the light, and they are beckoned by deceased family and friends who try to get them to go into the light, and when they refuse, they remain on earth. It appears that most ghosts are confined to a home, to a place that they were familiar with, or even to a graveyard. Why? Well, perhaps in the afterlife they have ghost police, a governing force of spirits that keep them entrapped in one area until they are ready to go into the light and reach an energy plane with other spirits. An energy plane that may be known as heaven or even hell. And perhaps some spirits or ghosts don't want to enter the light because they're afraid that they may go to a place of damnation, a place that we learn from preachers of our churches that talk of fire and brimstone and a lake of fire. And let's talk about demons for a minute. Now, demons are completely different. Demons were formerly angels and have more powers than your average day ghost and can manifest any part of the world in the blink of an eye. No one seems capable of controlling demons unless an exorcism takes place, and perhaps then angels will keep the demon at bay and chase the demon away. Residual hauntings? With residual hauntings, an intense event took place, perhaps a murder, perhaps some other violent crime, or even a very important speech that was given to some very important people. Because of these events, a lot of untapped energy was released from the people that participated in this event, so much energy that it left an imprint on the atmosphere, like a tape recorder, and it plays back over and over again. We at times can see events like this take place in a ghostly realm, but we are unable to communicate with the ghost of this event because they're unaware of their surroundings. They are mere holographic images in the fabric of space and time, repeating an event over and over and over again. How about reincarnation? I guess we're getting this guy's full meal deal for sure. Let's see what he's got to say. In this person, is the person with the past life memories really the person of the past? I doubt it, but perhaps they are very much in tune with the energy of a deceased person and are able to see the life that deceased person and even contain their memories, causing the person who thinks they are reincarnated to think that they were once that person. A reincarnated person is actually a person that is very sensitive in picking up memories of a deceased person and living with those past memories. And what is the poltergeist phenomena? When a child, usually a young girl, is going through puberty, her body is changing inside, and she is able to release energy that is so intense that it can cause knocking and rapping sounds, cabinets to pop open, glasses to fall, and all of us have a lot of energy within our bodies, and sometimes that energy can be so powerful it can cause disturbances in a home. Remember, we can move mountains with our minds if we know how to utilize our full mind power. We only utilize a small portion of our minds. Walter B. Gibson, the author of the 30s and 40s pulp hero The Shadow, thought of his creation so much that the guests of his home would actually see the shadow lurking around his house. Now that is a powerful mind. On this Friday night, which is in 2007, I joined the investigative group of Northern California. We went, I don't know, what is he saying here? Okay, I don't know. I don't know how to read the rest of it because it's more like an interview. So I guess I don't disagree with this person's thoughts necessarily. I don't know. I do believe that reincarnated souls do come back. I really do. What is my basis for that belief? I don't know. I guess I can only tell you it comes from a very intuitive place, a very spiritual place inside of me. But I think, well, this is my idea of it, ladies and gentlemen, and take it or leave it. And please let me know what your thoughts are, and you can email or leave a comment on the video after the fact if you choose. But I think that, and I know this isn't just my opinion. This is an opinion that I've heard many, many other times before by many, many other sources. But I think that, our job, our purpose is to learn and grow and expand and develop the divine light that is inside of us. And so that we can become, and I don't mean this from an egotistical place. I honestly don't. This isn't ego talking, but it's just that we are born of a divine spark. However you define that is up to you. But we have this spark in us. We have this light in us. And it is the very reason that we have life, because this spark is life, and therefore we have life. I think our purpose is to grow and develop this spark, this light, until we become great lights of our own. And, I don't necessarily like the term gods or whatever, but you know what I'm saying, that we would become completely realized creator beings and to have understanding and control of the divine light that is in us. And so I don't think that can happen in one lifetime. I don't think it can happen in 5 lifetimes. I think that it takes place over many, many lifetimes that people develop this light and this spark, and they learn to become the divinity that they are. It's like starting out with a really beautiful, amazing suit, but you're only a toddler and you got to grow into it, and it takes a long time before you get to wear this amazing suit. And so perhaps that's kind of a parable to explain my ideas of what our purpose is, and how come I believe that reincarnation is indeed a thing. Now, I know that some people will say that this is a fabrication, a hologram, that we're living in a projected reality, and that could be. But regardless of the nature of the reality we're in, and whatever you believe is what becomes real. So, if you believe it is a matrix of sorts, then it is. But if you believe it is a classroom of sorts, then it is. It doesn't really matter, because it basically gets down to semantics. But the important thing is that we have to develop beyond the need for these lives. And once we are these realized creator beings, we won't need to manifest in this form anymore, because we will be able to manifest things on our own and create other realities, other universes maybe. I don't know what that means, but these are just my thoughts, ladies and gentlemen, and it's probably way beyond the scope of a show called Paranormal Portal to be discussing things like that. But, since the idea was on the table, I just wanted to share with you my philosophy on that, and take it or leave it. I don't have to be right. I don't have to be wrong, but that's my truth. So, and if it fits for you, if it helps you, great. If it doesn't, discard it. There is no right answers, and there's no wrong answers. It's just wherever you're at on your journey. So, I hope you don't mind indulging me to share that with you, but those are my thoughts. So, very cool nonetheless. The next one comes out of the great state of Indiana. let's see. It says, when I was about 8 years old, my family bought this old bar. There you go, Haxer. The man we bought it from sold it for about half the price that it was worth. My family didn't care, though, so we bought the place. We unpacked our stuff and started to make the place a little more like home, and on the main floor was where the bar was held, and on the second floor was where we lived. Everything was fine until one day when my younger brother and myself were upstairs playing in our room, and the room became a chilly cold. And we noticed it right away and told our mom, and she checked the heating, and it was working. And later on, my brother and I kept seeing this old man sitting on the window panel smoking a cigar. Other things also happened. When you went into the bar area late at night, you will see a young girl walking around whispering to herself. And after a few more years, we moved out of that house and never mentioned it again. And I'm now 13 and did a little research on that bar, and it was built in 1902, and the old man and his daughter lived there after his wife died. They lived there for years until he murdered his daughter for frolicking with a local man and then shot himself in his room, which was me and my brother's room. Freaky encounter. I'll say that's a little freaky for sure. Huh. And that's those old buildings. They got so much history. And, bars are festive and fun places, but they can also be places where a lot of dark things can happen because God knows people drinking are not always using all their faculties. So the next one is from Virginia. My name is Brittany, and I'm telling you about a ghost encounter I had when I was only 11 years old. And it was a Friday night, and the next morning I was going to camp with my church class. And the camping trip was a whole week long, so I wouldn't be seeing my parents for a week. And I was sleeping in our guest bedroom when I heard my stepdad call me into the room to come sleep with my mom and him because they would miss me because I wouldn't see them for a week. So I went into their room and fell asleep, and it was really comfortable. Then at around 5:30 a.m., my mom woke me up and said Jerry's alarm will be going off in about a half hour, so I went and laid on our couch, and I looked up because I didn't feel right. And I saw this lady standing in the archway between our dining room and living room. I'll never forget what the woman looked like. She had black, straight, shoulder-length hair and was wearing a purple shirt with different flowers in 3 boxes, black jeans on, and white tennis shoes. And everybody says when they see a ghost, they can see right through them. But this lady or thing was not at all transparent. She looked like any other person that was alive, and she even had color in her skin, and she didn't make any noise. She just looked at me with her arms crossed. And another thing that was a little confusing was ghosts usually come when it's really dark, and, well, we had our oven light on, and it lit up the whole house. After I saw her, I ran into my mom's room and tried to go to sleep, and my mom said it was just my imagination, but I know what I saw, and there was nothing imaginary about it. I have been asking the previous owners of our house, who happen to be friends of ours, if anyone died in the house that looked like her, and they are still saying no. Well, that house is previously burned down, but we are still building a new house on that same lot, but I hope the lady's gone. Yeah, well, that's... and that's the interesting thing, ladies and gentlemen, is spirits can appear as manifest as anyone else you'd meet. So I really often wonder how many times have we even met and talked to spirits and didn't know it because they look just like everyone else. Makes you wonder. The next one is from North Carolina, and it says, it all started when I was home alone, just singing along to one of my favorite Avril Lavigne songs, and I had the music turned up really loud, and I was having a good time, and then I heard this really weird noise coming from inside the speaker that sort of sounded like a girl talking, but I thought it was just my imagination. I kept listening to the music, and I heard the girl talking in the background. I got a little spooked, and I turned the music off, and Then I tried to convince myself that I was just imagining it. So I turned on just the speaker for clarification, and it was quiet at first, but then I heard the girl's voice again. It got really, really freaked out, and I turned it off, and after a few minutes I turned it on again and asked her not to hurt me, and I asked her what she was, and I heard a noise like a girl trying to say something clearly, but by then I was scared out of my mind, and I told her that I was getting really freaked out and that I had to go. I turned the speaker off again and realized that I was shaking. Until then, I had never really believed in ghosts, but now I'm convinced that there is something else out there. I just don't know what to do. That's a little tougher one because there's so many ways that normal interference could possibly interrupt and become broadcast through a speaker. I have to keep an open mind because I'm sure it's plenty possible, and Lord knows there's so many people using things like SB7 spirit boxes and Ovulus and and EVPs in order to hear spirit voices, and so it is completely possible. But there's also the idea that if she was playing a stereo, could there have been a bleed through from a station? Could there there's so many other factors that could come into play with that. So yeah, it's possible, but I don't know. It's it's one of those things that without looking at the equipment, you can't really know. But it is interesting, and I know for this girl it was real, and that's freaky enough. All right, how are we doing here? I just want to check the time and see what we're doing. Yeah, we're at about a half hour, so I'll read one more here, ladies and gentlemen. And it's a longie. So this will take several minutes to get through. And this one's coming out of Arizona. You have to understand a few things to understand my story. I'm a child of 5, the middle child, and at the time of my living in this house, I was 9 or 10 years old, and my parents aren't married. My dad had to get out of my mother's house fast. One of my sister's friends from dance were moving, and their current home was right where my dad wanted to move to, so they invited us over to check it out, and my dad bought it right away. The house wasn't big enough to hold 5 kids, 1 adult and 2 dogs, but my dad was going to look over the blueprints of the house to see if he could build on to the 2 lofts, and one in my dad's room and another one upstairs in the living room. The first day in the house, we all slept on mattresses because our beds weren't in yet, and for some reason, I wouldn't sleep in my room. I wanted to, but I wouldn't let myself. I just crashed it with my sister and 1 dog at the time, our miniature dachshund, Lola. We had never really heard her bark that much, but she would not stop barking. She would just bark at the door, even though my dad was out getting food for the morning and my brother was at hockey practice. It was only my little brother, Daniel, me, and Elizabeth, Lauren, and Lola. And then out of nowhere, Lola starts whining. And then the room turned ice cold. In the middle of spring in Arizona. Lola started jumping from mattress to mattress over and over again. And once my dad got home, I settled in his office. We had very little furniture at the time, and his office was the only finished room we had, so while he was on the computer, I crashed in a chair, and I had broken my foot on, then it goes into a parentheses, I've broken my foot several times, but I broke mine 3 times in that house. I'll get to that later. I only had a blanket, no pillow, and I started to feel a tickling sensation in my foot. I giggled, and then I felt a sharp pain. I screamed at my dad to stop, but he was on the computer. This happened several times in that chair. About a month later, it was Father's Day, and we were all in my dad's room opening gifts and having fun, and only my older brother Michael wasn't there. Soon, though, he came charging in, screaming at my dad, "This house is haunted!" Mrs., and that says name will not be told, knew. "You never told us. How come I have never experienced anything?" How come I have never experienced anything? My dad started talking about what Mrs. Blank had told him, that she was one day folding laundry and she turned around and there she was, smiling like a haunted smile. She started screaming and throwing clothes at her. She also mentioned that her cleaning ladies quit running about the house screaming. I decided to go to my room to get changed, and I wasn't really a believer in ghosts. And as I was walking down the hall, I saw a dark figure at the front door. I screamed and my father came running in. "She's here. I saw her. I swear." My dad thought it was kind of odd, and no one else had seen her, only orbs out of the corner of their eyes, and everyone just went into the kitchen to make breakfast, and I followed in shock. School restarted about 2 months later, and I was standing in front of the mirror in the doorway around where I had last seen her, and I was making sure my hair was okay, and I looked deep in the mirror, and she was there. But this time I saw a full human, standing there, slightly glowing. She had hair about shoulder length, and she had a white shirt on with a half top that tied in the middle over it, and she had knee-length skirt on, and she had her hand on my shoulder. She was young and beautiful, and when I turned around, I saw a black shadow. I turned back to the mirror, and the shadow was there, but it didn't fade away. It just popped out of sight. I screeched and ran into the loft office to get my dad. She's hand on shoulder, black thingy shadow, was all I could get out. One night I was sleeping in my room, and the little ghost girl with the same name as me who wouldn't let me in. I felt a quick whoosh of wind. The fan knocked over. I had a bunk bed, so my fan was all the way by my closet, and I woke up like I had been lifted up and been thrown down. I tried to get up to fix my fan and close my already closed window, but I couldn't. Something or someone was holding me down. Whatever it was finally let me go. I investigated, but my fan was back in place, and my window was closed and locked. I went back to sleep. Back then, I heard a woman's voice singing me a lullaby, and I simply covered my ears and said, "Go away. My mother doesn't live here." About another month later, my dad got me a small pet mouse. She had a metal wheel in her cage, of which she loved, but she was not your normal rodent. She was awake during the day and asleep at night. And I noticed that her wheel was always spinning at night, so one night I decided to investigate, and there she was in her little house, asleep. I was watching in horror as the wheel turned itself. We lived in the house for 1.5 years, and that half we tried to sell the house. People would walk into the house happy, loving it, and then walk out almost depressed. Of course, I was the only one that noticed. As strange as it sounds, we had 3 mice, one for all my sisters and me. For some reason, mine, Roxy, killed my sister Lauren's mouse, Moo, and we thought it was strange, and that only happens when there is a male mouse usually, but we only had female. And we were in my mom's house for 2 days, and we left, and we only had 2 mice left, Roxy and Cookie. When we came home, Cookie was dead. My older sister was crushed. It appeared she had died of starvation. But my dad had just fed her the other day, and she had 5 bowls of food. Every one was empty. It was impossible. My dad looked in her mouth to see if she had choked. It was all clear. And then I walked into my room and screamed as loud as I could, "Roxy, Dad, Roxy." He came running in my room to see what was wrong, and she had a huge cut on her rib area. And we rushed her to the vet and couldn't find any way that could have happened. I ran into my room, putting Roxy down on my desk. "You did it," is all I screamed. And we moved 3 months later. My dad decided to investigate the home's history, and it turned out every owner had some sort of relationship with the last owner. My dad hired a psychic, and she said the chair I had slept in was where see the mom's ghost. I don't know what that means. Where see the mom ghost. And my room was where her daughter's room was and where she died. She was a Mormon and hated rodents. And I have many other experiences, but there are too many to fit in one story. I was the only one who experienced so much, and my dad was the only one who had small things happen. The crazy thing is, I think she's following me. I was told that she thinks I'm her daughter, and that she wants some to stay. A few times I have felt like I've been watched, and we moved into a home that was just built, and we were the first occupants, but I woke up one night to get a glass of water, and I saw her. I started thinking about her astral projecting from the old house, and my dad believes that I can see the dead. Finally, a story with my mom. My mom had a deacon from the local church come to bless her house. At the time, she wasn't religious at all. After the blessing, I ran into my room crying. I was about 5 or 6. I don't want Bear to leave. And Bear was our old dog. And that's the whole story. That's a tough one, and I don't know. It's weird when if that happens where the deceased believe that the living are their family, or that maybe there's kind of like a mental illness kind of thing that goes on with some earthbound spirits. Like maybe that's why they're earthbound, is because they're just, I don't know, not right somehow. Like something went sideways in their psyche, and so they wander rather than having gone to the light, or whatever happens when we die. But when they make that attachment, are they attached to a place, or are they able to go and come as they wish? I don't know. It makes you wonder, though. But I guess that's about it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed this installment of the Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm, of course, always thrilled that you guys are here with me and a part of it. And I will be back tomorrow night with Mr. Don, and we'll do a Wednesday 2-hour show for you guys. So I hope you'll tune in and be a part of that as well. But until then, have a wonderful night. Take care of each other. Be good, be kind, be nice, and help each other out. And we'll get through this 2019 thing, no worries. But that's it for me, ladies and gentlemen. That wraps up our tonight's show. And I hope you have sweet dreams. So good night, everybody.